Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to, I think it's episode 4. Didn't prepare that bit of my Masterless Podcast. I'm going to be talking about illness today, like serious illness or, any type of problems where the body starts to go wrong. I'm going to explain why that is, why my experience, why that is. And I really want to talk about it. Maybe I'm almost talking to myself because I want to put it out into the world. From what I'm seeing, and it's 100% of the time what I'm seeing. And I also get good results if the person's willing also to do the work in as part of the, let's say, healing process. I'm in an apartment at the moment. That's why there's an emergency sign in the background. I'm writing my book at the moment, which is sort of brought up a lot of the, the creative juices about going into why I do my work. So most of the day, I've already done 2 pretty intense sessions this morning, where I'm working with clients. That's always my passion, my love is to be working with clients, getting results for them, or helping them get results for themselves, and staying in the game. That as a therapist, I think it's really important to be doing the work. I don't want to become an educator who doesn't work with people, because it's through working with people that I understand things and see things. So I also, I have an online school where I teach people how to do this themselves, but I educate. And in this book, I'm writing the part of the book now, which is what do I want to achieve with the book? So I'm kind of going to be going into a little bit of that, and bring it back to illness. So in the book, I want to explain the aspect of the body, which is that it works very much like a computer, and the physical body is the hardware, the mind is the software, and the spirit is stuff that comes in from outside, different weakening energies. The foundation of my work initially was using this internal tech to find other people's internal tech glitches. So almost like a technician. When you have a problem with your computer, not your body, but with everyone has a computer now, or your iPhone, what you do is when you have a problem with it, well, you'll look maybe online to see if there's a fix, and then you take it to a technician. Now, if you took it to a technician and they said, leave it with me for a few weeks or a few months, and it needs to be healed, you'd go think they were crazy, and you would take your computer elsewhere, because the paradigm with computers is that you find what the problem is, you should be able to solve it. It might take a little bit of time to maybe fix the code in the background, or maybe there's a physical physical problem with one of the ports or something. But once you know the truth, you should be able to find the truth quickly and then resolve it. Now, when it comes to working with humans, that is not the case. We are trapped in a paradigm that was created many thousands of years ago, that healing takes time. You've all heard the expression, healing takes time. And what that does is it creates its own reality, that healing takes time. But when I'm working with someone on their internal tech, is when you find the truth of something, it'll instantly shift it. So the whole medical model and healing model is based on time. But and for instance, don't get me wrong, if your bone's broken, it will take time to heal. But I'll talk about why we attract those things. The way I look at things going wrong with the body, it's all tied in with consciousness and how we perceive reality. There's no separation from the external and internal world. And when we understand that, you can see why everything happens. So that's what I want to get into today as best as I can. So if you have a broken bone, yeah, that's going to take time. But if you're working with someone and they've got pain, or they've got discomfort, or they've got sensations or emotions, you should be able to find, if you find the truth behind why the symptom is, the symptom will resolve itself. It's just a completely different way of looking at it. And it freaks people out when you're working with them. I want things to change immediately. So if someone's got a stiff neck, I'll say, okay, what's the primary weakness for this? And they'll go, no, it's my neck. I'm like, no, if it was your neck that was the problem, that would be the truth and it would instantly resolve it. So I say, okay, let me find out I get a baseline for the neck, like maybe stiff, turning to the right. Then I say, I find out what the primary weakness is by connecting to my internal tech, which is based on ones and zeros, a feeling of strong or weak, my internal physiological sensitivity, as Josh Waitzkin talked about in his book, The Art of Learning. I like that, this internal physiological sensitivity, I call it insight, and where your feeling of strong or weak, which is a skill, which if you go and look at Qigong or Tai Chi or any of those internal arts, the positions of the hands strengthen or weaken you, the feet. So it's based on that, the yin and yang, the strong or weak energies. So you use that internal tech to find out why the person's neck thing is there. It could be physical, but oftentimes it's not. It could be non-physical, emotional. And I use it to connect with the truth, using my physical intelligence. And when I find that, and I strengthen it, switch it back on from a 0 to a 1, and I say, how's your neck now? And they look and then they go, what? Instant change. Sometimes it's gone, sometimes it's improved, but it's different. And that's how I work with any physical problem. What I've come to understand is that, so I started off with this internal tech, ones and zeros. And what I've come to understand is with some clients, they kept on bringing back the issues, or there were some things when the clients explained it, I couldn't, it was beyond this 1 and 0. I couldn't get a change. It didn't happen often, but it happened often enough for me to know that I was missing something. I was missing a truth in the way the body mind worked. So I started to look, and it took years of looking and observing. And something that tipped me in that direction was I read a book. I don't read too many books, but I was drawn to this book by Krishnamurti, and I saw some of his videos. I realized that he was talking about truth, and it was first principles, internal first principles. And I followed it through, and I studied him, and I realized that what he was saying was, through understanding the self, understanding our deep operating system of the body, the self, by observing it firsthand, you can, and getting to know it, you change it. So what I realized with my work was I was working with an internal tech on more on the software level, the ones and zeros, and the deep operating system, the deepest operating system of how the person perceived their life based on early childhood. I'll talk a little bit more about that. That was where I needed to, with the client, show them that it's actually a deeper level operating system. So with the book I'm writing, I'm going to go deeply into that. And I've talked about it before, but it's worth saying again and again. So the ones and zeros is the zeros, the weakening energy. Really, it can be fed from outside. It could be the environment. It could be triggers, things that are happening, other people weakening you. That's more coming from outside spirit, or you're downloading other people's information, empathizing, resonating, which weakens you. It could be coming from the mind and fears and stuff. But when you get to it, the mind, the deep mind, the deepest operating system, that's where we have these hamster wheels, which I've talked about before, that it's a pattern to the way the mind works. And I haven't met anyone who doesn't have hamster wheels running. And these hamster wheels are glitchy, and they create all our problems, all our physical problems, and the extreme physical problems, which are the illnesses. And I couldn't strengthen them with the ones and zeros. So I saw Jay Krishnamurti, where he turned me on to this idea of observing. When I observed over many months and years, I realized that there was a pattern to the thoughts that we think. If you listening now, you will have a pattern that works just like a hamster wheel in the way you think. For example, today I was working with a very high achiever businessman who was seeing everything through able and unable. So what I'm saying there is those words, able and unable, he was spending all of his time trying to be able, but he kept spinning back like a hamster wheel to unable. And he was just bouncing in his thinking between able and unable, able and unable. And the way off of this, one way is to, with addictions, so pleasure, seeking freedom through behaviors, it's one way, but then we come straight back into the hamster wheel and feel the feeling that we were trying to avoid with the addiction. So working with addiction with this is super powerful, and I get really good results with that. When you see the truth, it sets you free. When you see the truth, it's the answer and it resolves things instantly. So the operating system in us it works like hamster wheels. A big shout out to Gabor Mate, who turned me on to the idea of the trauma initially, because I was thinking, where's this hamster wheel coming from? And he explained it brilliantly, saying that it's trauma. You have to have that as the model. And through my other reading around childhood, raising children and trauma and love and etc., I pieced that together, that there's a little circle there when I'm drawing on my whiteboard, a little circle on the bottom left of my whiteboard where I always put the client's name with a little, like Rob would be little Rob, because all my programs that I run now were created before I was 5 years old. So we create these hamster wheels in order for us to feel valuable, in order that we think that will get us the love, connection, belonging that we didn't get when we were a child. So it's like a dysfunctional pattern, but it's a defense mechanism. Okay. So this operating system is in you. And if you are interested in freedom, then this is the only way. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Bear with me because I'm talking about this stuff for the first time. So, the more I talk about it, the better it gets. So I hope you're following. So we have this base layer operating system on our computer internally. This feeds into and triggers us. These deep programs trigger us and give us all our emotions, our anger and our sadness and grief and, and fear and worry, those kind of the major emotions. They feed into our body, and those emotions get suppressed and pushed down inside of us, and that creates blockages in the flow of energy. Now, I've studied acupuncture meridians for a long time. I'm not an expert, but I know meridians. I've worked with them physically, and I now work with them non-physically. But meridians, the Western science is starting to realize that what they were devaluing for so long and saying was just magic mumbo jumbo about the traditional Chinese medicine. Now the West is starting to wake up, because in the last 10 years, they've discovered mitochondrial science and how the mitochondrial system is so important to health. And I've said this many times, Douglas Wallace, the top guy in mitochondrial research, has opened a clinic in China because he believes the mitochondrial system is the meridian system. So our emotions get stuck and block, cause energy problems in the meridians or mitochondrial system, and that creates dysfunction in our body. So if that model is true, which is what I work with and what I see, and it fits like a glove, I'm always open to be wrong, and that's why I'm trying to disprove everything that I do. By the way, I've always done that. I'm quite skeptical about what I'm doing. I'm like, am I making this up? Am I biased? Of course I'm biased. So I have to realize that, but does it fit? When I working with my clients, I say everything that goes on the board that I'm drawing has to be true for you. So it has to be a fact. And that fact comes from how they're experiencing life, and it just fits every single time. So it brings me on to severe illness. Why do we get sick? Now you have people saying it's seed oils, not bad light, wrong food, etc. But medicine's not looking at true causes. So medicine's on the paradigm that we're all robots, mechanical. You can break everything down, smaller components, work out what's wrong, and then just fix it using surgery or whatever. And to some degree, when it comes to removing a tumor, that could be, surgery can be amazing, especially emergency surgery for breaks and things, and replacing organs and stuff. But the medicine is woeful in understanding how health and balance and how the mind and our emotions create dis-ease in the body. When you really start opening your eyes and spending a lot of time observing, I've spent almost 3 decades looking for this, and so I see that when someone comes to me with cancer or a neurological disorder or something, there is something in their behavior that when they're experiencing unableness. So let me rephrase that. There is a clear pattern that people who have a very bad illness, they absolutely despise feeling unable and helpless. So they usually are fighters. Now, that doesn't literally mean they're a fighter, although I've worked with fighters, literal fighters, UFC fight, MMA fighters, boxers, wrestlers, and things. But there's something in their character that they, if you imagine a hamster wheel, able and unable, able on the right, they spend all their time up in the able, all their thoughts, they live their life trying to be able, to be valuable, to gain love, belonging, connection. The step from valuable to loving, belonging, connection, there isn't one. It's a faulty pattern. It's an illusion. So, but they try, like on a hamster wheel, by energizing their ableness. However, if you go on the other side of the hamster wheel, there is another side to it, and it's unable. So when their body says no, when the body finally says no, I think actually that's a book by Gabor Mate that's worth a read. When the body says no, he says that's when the body becomes, cancer or something is usually within a couple of years of some significant trauma. So I would say the significant trauma is a ripple. So if you have a loss and you experience complete unableness, which what happens when there's a loss, it triggers the early childhood loss. It's not necessarily the trauma that you have maybe when you're 40, 50, or 60, but it fires up the initial before 5 trauma, which spins the hamster wheel much faster, which gives you the opposite. Unfortunately, the hamster spins and flicks over to unable. So I had a client I was speaking to just the other day who's been told she's dying of cancer. It hasn't got long. The doctor's quite brutal about it. But I can hear in their behavior that their whole setup is to fight. They've always fought, and they feel that unjustly that they haven't been supported. And when I listen to their behavior, it's obvious that unable is their kryptonite. But why are we getting ill? It's to balance out this glitchy program, to show to us it's our unconscious meeting us in our body. As Jung says, diseases are unconscious meeting us in the body, that it's trying to show us that something's wrong. And I see it every single time, 100% of the time, that when there's something really serious gone wrong with the body, the person feels completely unable, which is their worst nightmare. So you always energize what you're running away from. There are many different phrases, or I'm looking out to sea and I think I just saw a whale, which is pretty cool. But it might be something else, but it looked like something jumped out of the water. That's pretty cool. There are many different self-development or spiritual sayings kind of saying the thing. Whatever you're running, whatever you fear, you're going to attract, right? And the hamster wheel, exactly the same. That's how it works. So this client of mine is like, how do I fight this role? I'm like, you got to stop fighting. What? You mean I have to give in and just what was the wording she used? Was to just succumb, quit? I said, no, you have to watch the behavior. And this is something I wanted to talk about, is when you're working with someone's mind, there's a reason why they have it. It's a defense system. So when I tell someone, hey, you can't fight this cancer, that's the reason why you got it, because via fighting you were able, and via fighting you wouldn't feel unable. You have to face the unable. That doesn't mean just giving up, which would be another reinforcing of the behavior. It would be a reaction within that centralized system. So you have to observe, you have to just observe that you're feeling unable and not run away from it, and just observe it. And you're going to go back to your childhood. You're going to observe that you were scared and frightened and felt unable as a kid. You created this program to be able and safe, but it's a faulty program. It's giving you a big unsafe environment now until you resolve it. However, getting someone to see that the mind, the illusion, that's where it gets tricky. So when I'm working with a client, if they can't see that they are not their mind, that their mind is just a bunch of thoughts, like meditation is fundamentally that, is being able to observe your own behavior, is to know yourself, to know all the conditioning in your mind. If you can't look at it, if you're caught in the hamster wheel and you can't see that you're not the hamster wheel, there's really nothing I can do. So, at some point, I do my very, very best to show that the hamster wheel is an illusion. It's just from childhood and a defense mechanism software on the computer. So I can go onto their computer, I can strengthen all their organs, I can improve everything. But if that hamster wheel is spinning like crazy, it's just feeding into the body and reinforcing the cells to be unable to do what they're supposed to do, which is cancer. So, it can be tough. Also, if someone's very able, like they're a very high achiever, they're the top of their profession, then they don't like feeling unable. In working with me, what do you think that's going to do? First of all, they're going to hope that they're going to be more able, but they don't like to feel unable. So I have to be, stepping carefully not to spin them back to being unable. And one of the biggest questions I've already mentioned it, is people say, yeah, but if I observe my behavior, if I get rid of it, won't I then be like a ship without a rudder? Won't I be completely powerless and unable? And that's their hamster wheel looking after itself. It's a defense mechanism. If I'm not able, won't I be unable? So they're reinforcing the hamster wheel. That's 100% of the time, that's what happens. People go, yeah, but if I get rid of this, I'm scared. Yeah, it's okay. The reason why you're scared is because you're connecting to your childhood scared fear that created the hamster wheel in the first place. So I did a Michael Saylor. If you know who Michael Saylor is, a Bitcoiner, you'll know. What I'm saying here is that what I see is that all physical and non-physical problems that we have, we create from our deep hamster wheels, a deep operating system. Out there, your world outside of you is created by this operating system. I know that now. So everything in my environment is created by me from the inside. Things I don't like, it's me, it's my wounds. Something's going in my life that I'm attracting issues and problems, it's coming from me. So as Jocko Willink said, in Extreme Ownership, you take ownership for everything in your life. And if it is true that your internal reality creates the external reality, if there's no separation, that means it's truth, you have to take responsibility for everything in your life. And when you do, your whole reality changes. I'm not going to say for the better, but it is because you keep getting curveballs and shit boomerangs thrown at you to try and wake you up to the fact that you create your own reality. It sounds very woo-woo, but it's not. And if you think that, you need to start opening your eyes. So if we create our own reality, what that means is whenever we try and shape things, whenever we shape things coming from an ideology or belief or mental thought from the hamster wheel, you're going to create the opposite. So people who fight Bitcoin, they empower it. Everywhere you look, people, you discipline your child because you want them to be happy. You create, it depends how disciplined you are, but the more you discipline, the more they will be out of control, and you're absolutely screwing them up, even though you're doing it because you think you're doing it for the right reasons. And that is just a fact. If you use your mind to shape your life, you'll create the opposite. It's just how reality works. If you look closely, you will see that. And it's important to realize that. So how do we change our reality? How do we if you go, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna work really hard, that's coming because you don't feel like you're good enough, or something's wrong with you, and so you'll do it for a certain amount of time, then you'll spin back and you'll be unable to continue, which will make you feel even worse. So it was the initial feeling that created is the hamster wheel, which makes you spin, and you'll try and make money and then you'll lose the money. If you see your patterns, you'll see these cycles in everything that you do. So how do we change your reality out there? Is you need to observe your thinking about it. It is a completely counterintuitive thing. The Taoists called it non-doing. Wu Wei, effortless non-doing. Alan Watts, you don't do to do. You have to what? It doesn't mean you don't do. It means you observe your thinking and observe the patterns of thinking that are creating your reality, and then you change it. If you use the law of attraction, what you're doing is you're trying to gain things, and to some degree the law of attraction does work, but they don't tell you that you're also attracting the opposite at the equal amount. So beware. So that's a glitchy program. They're hooking you. Law of attraction is hooking you on, you can attract anything you want in your life, and that is part of your hamster wheel. You're going to energize the opposite. So I'm going to finish up. Just, you create your reality through your hamster wheels. Therefore, you have to know your hamster wheels to understand why you're creating what you're creating. And in understanding the hamster wheels, you dissolve them. So the book, I'm going to be saying this stuff about, and I'm going to give lots of stories and examples of people who have been cured of incurable things. Not to say that I'm special. I'm just human, flawed, working on my own stuff. we have this technology inside of us. We have these hamster wheels inside of us that all of us need to understand if we want to make our lives better and to change the world that's completely crazy and dysfunctional and traumatized and violent and greedy. If we see those things outside of us, it's because it's within each and every one of them. It's within me. So when I see greed, I'll look at my own greed. I take full responsibility. So I suppose finishing off is, in taking full responsibility that I create my reality, then everything in the world that I dislike, I don't blame, I don't judge, I don't criticize. I just observe that within myself to change it. All my physical, my body, my mind, my spirit, it has an underpinning of a 1 and 0 energy. We don't need to go back thousands of years to heal things, to understand how to heal things. We have external tech everywhere. We also have internal tech, as within, as without, as above, as below. There's always, in your reality, it's reflecting back at you. So we have this internal tech that we can all understand and use. Just like your iPhone, or when your computer's whirring, you can go in, look at activity monitor and close the programs that are running. You can do with that with your body. I do it. I've been doing it for over 20 years, getting instant changes on myself and others, not because I'm special. It's just because the tech works. It's truthful. Closing your web browsers, emptying your cache, emptying your email. It's not rocket science. It's the same with the body. We all have this ability. On a deeper level, if we want to really understand and be free as humans, and to change the humanity and the brutalities that we keep committing, and we committing today, wherever you look, it's just corruption and greed and incompetence and ugliness. We have to look at ourselves, because we're all nodes on one blockchain. We're all nodes, and we have to take responsibility for everything that's sort of on the ledger. I don't know if that analogy works, but it doesn't matter. You get it. So going deeper into the operating system, we need to really do proof of work to see our own behavior. So the book's going to be talking about that. I'll also go into some cool stuff about how the body gets confused. Like, if you're weak to going backwards, and you squat and you go backwards, your mind gets triggered, and then your body perceives it as a threat. So you get pain in your body when you go backwards into a squat. And that happens with, the mind saying things like, if I like bending over backwards for people, I bend over backwards, it's painful. Then you maybe bend forward, which is the opposite, triggers the opposite, and you get pain in your back. Standing up for yourself, all these phrases of movement and positions and things, your body gets confused because they're painful, and the central nervous system can't see the difference, so you get pain. So resolving most body pains and things is coming from a mental pain, and so it's very quick to resolve anything in the body. So I'm going to be speaking about that, and also other stuff. So I'm going to jump off now and carry on writing my book. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about it, please write underneath, or you can always connect with me at www.school.com/masterless meditation. I have free courses on there. You can ask questions on there and I answer. And also, if this is on YouTube, please subscribe and like it, as it really helps with getting this super important work out to all humans. We need it. We need all humans taking responsibility for themselves if we want to change humanity, All right. Thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you on the next pod. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.